All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well this morning. So today, we're finishing up Scott Nelson. And just to catch some people up that haven't been following it, Scott Nelson killed a nice nanny in Florida. He wrapped her head in duct tape and stabbed her a bunch of times. He felt like it was his only option because he just was cast out by society and the justice system. And old Nelson isn't playing with a full deck, but the deck that he is, the hand that he is playing is just victim cards, and he's ready to play them. And so where we're picking up this video is he does about 3 hours on the stand. And this one picks up an hour into the 2-hour video, right? When he goes, so he gets, the judge goes, "Are you sure you want to take the stand, man? It's not going to be, you get asked a bunch of questions, essentially, is what the judge was saying for like 20 minutes before he went up there. Are you sure you want to do this?" And he's like, "Yes." So then he gets up there. This is just a recap still. So then he gets up there, and his lawyer goes, "Who is Julio Dominguez?" And he goes, "He is my parole officer, and he got me fired," which his boss testified that he didn't, and that Scott Nelson just left. So I think Scott Nelson is incapable of blaming himself for anything, his own shortfalls. It's much easier, instead of just being like, "I had a job and I just petered out and lost it." It's way easier to be like, "My parole officer, Julio Dominguez, lost me the job, and now I'm sad and I'm pissed, and there's no other option except to go to Walmart and then go and kill a nanny because of my parole officer." And so his lawyers are like, "Who is Julio Dominguez?" And he's like, "That's the guy the reason I did this murder." Well, then the prosecution gets a shot at him. And I think that he was delusional about what this was going to look like, because for 20 minutes, he is this like, "Yes, Miss Burdick." The prosecutor's name is Miss Burdick. He goes, "Yes, Miss Burdick. No, Miss Burdick. I'm telling you the truth, everything I'm saying is the truth, Miss Burdick." Well, Miss Burdick's job is to go through everything from him leaving his job all the way to getting caught. Through the murder, she's going to walk through it. She's going to ask him. And like I said, for about 20 minutes, he has this like, "I am just a truth teller." He's like Graham. "I'm a truth teller. I'm going to tell the truth because..." So he has this like, "Yes, ma'am. I'm telling you the truth, ma'am," kind of energy. And so she's asking him about losing his job, and he's the truth teller. And he remembers every detail. And then he asks him about his parole officer. Again, every detail down to the fucking thing. Asks him about, choosing a victim for his last resort. And slowly, as she starts to get closer to the total unnecessary murder and violence and horror that he caused this poor lady, something happens. Old Scott Nelson's mind starts to get a little foggy, and he's starting to get annoyed. And I think about an hour in to this, to the 2-hour where he's up there, about an hour in is where we're picking up this video, and he goes, and she's asking him, "Did you force your way into her place, or did you zip tie her right there?" And it starts to not really be about the injustices done to him. He got beat up in prison, and his parole officer was mean, and he wanted to he would talk about that for hours in perfect detail. And then, oh, look at this. We're about ready to talk about the horrible things you did to Jennifer. And all of a sudden, he goes, my mind's getting a little foggy. He actually just starts to get really annoyed. So she's saying, you know, was she scared? Or no, she's saying, like, so you're walking around Winter Park with a knife and these zip ties. And he's going, what does this have to do with Julio Dominguez? I think it's hitting him for the first time as, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to sit here and talk. I'm going to have to sit here and talk about this. I got to answer questions about, was she screaming? Or was she scared? Or, you know, did you have duct tape around her head when you brought her from the car? So all these hard, horrific questions that all of a sudden they make him not look like such a, I'm a victim. I'm just a victim, baby. So all of a sudden these are coming out where these aren't, like that makes me look pretty bad. So his mind goes foggy. He goes, well, my mind's fogging up. And he goes from this truth teller, I'm here to tell the truth, ma'am, Miss Boydick. He goes from a truth teller to a, well, my mind's getting foggy, need my medications. And then for a while he goes into his I don't recall phase of this, just kind of bitter. And so she's like, so when you're searching around the house trying to find money, which you don't find, was Jennifer tied up? And he's like, you know, I don't recall. I don't know. My mind is going foggy. And he has all these funny lines as it goes where she's like, so when you, is she tied up in the house? And he's like, I don't know, check the confessions. I have head injuries. I've had head injuries. I can't remember. I need medications. And those are kind of his go-to. I think I might start using the I've had head injuries. It's like me and my girlfriend went out of town this weekend, had this great weekend upstate, relaxing, and then on the way home, like, got into a fight. And I wanted to be like, I don't know, I'll check my pictures, but I've had head injuries, so I don't know. So he's kind of just amusing himself at this point, too. Like, they show him Miss Burdick. Miss Burdick gets a lot of credit because she has to go through this thing and ask him all these questions to just show the jury who he is. And you can't... He's the one that wanted to get up on the stand, so I kind of had the feeling when he's getting all mad of just like, I can't believe you're asking me these questions. I don't recall. My mind is foggy. I've had head injuries. I kind of had the feeling of, Nelson, what did you think taking the stand was going to be? Did you think you were just going to go, it was Julio Dominguez, and then the jury was going to gasp, and the judge was going to cheer, and the prosecution was going to say, no further questions, Your Honor. We have a victim. Please arrest Julio Dominguez. Like, what did he think the prosecution was going to do? Not ask him about duct taping the woman's head? I mean, what did you expect? You're getting mad at Miss Boydick. He's getting mad at the prosecution for asking these questions. And it's like, dude, you took the stand. What did you think? You only lasted 20 minutes with your, I am telling the truth. I'm a truth teller, Miss Boydick. You lasted 20 minutes before you're just throwing a fit saying your head injuries are fogging up your brain or something? So anyway, he's sitting there just going, I don't know. Just purposely making it hard for Miss Boydick. So she's saying, okay, so how did you get her from the house into the thing? I don't know. I've had head injuries. I need my medication. And so then they show him pictures of, or no, she asks him, so you drove out to the Disney property to kill her? And he's like, no, I was just driving out to dump her. Next question. And he's kind of at this point, so he does the I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't know. Check the confession I wrote. That's one of his other things too. He's like, I wrote a confession. How much easier could it be? Just look at the confession. I'm not going to sit here and let you grill me for 3 hours. And it's like, well, you took the stand, moron. So yeah, I don't know. I don't recall. And then it kind of slowly, which I think makes it even harder for the prosecution. Some questions, it seems like he'll answer. Like he gets into this like tired honesty again of, where he'll think about it and go, yeah, I think that's fair. And then just the next question will be like, I don't recall. I don't know. My head is injured. So for the prosecutor, she's asking every question, really not knowing, like, is this going to be... And so they're talking about how he drives to the Disney location. You know, she's asking him, what did she say? Or did you yank her out of the car? Was she already tied up when you got there? And he does this whole thing of like, once you're in that state, it's like when the corrections officer abused me. Once you get into that state, you're just doing things that you don't want to do and you don't understand. And my mind went foggy and I don't know. I can't remember. And it becomes obvious of just how much of a walking contradiction Scott Nelson is, because like I said earlier, his memory for everything going back 25 years that's happened to him, some little injustice, some look the guard gave him, he remembers it in perfect detail. But then all of a sudden, when you get on Jennifer, the mind goes foggy. And so they're walking through the hardest part. You know, when did you wrap her head in duct tape, Scott? And he's just fogging up. And at one point, she's asking him at what point he did something awful, and he goes, I can't remember everything. I'm not a computer. That's another one you can use at your job or something. They're like, hey, you forgot to send that report. We can't be having this conversation every time you send it. You just be like, I can't remember everything. I'm not a computer, okay? My mind's getting foggy. I have to check my pictures, but I've had head injuries. Please email me a reminder. So they're asking him, did you wrap her in the comforter? The comforter was taken off the bed, and they're like, did you wrap her in the comforter? At what point did you wrap her up? And he's like, I didn't do that. I don't know. I don't remember. And he's saying maybe the homeowner took the comforter. He was like, the homeowner didn't report it for 2 nights. Maybe he took the comforter. And they're talking about this comforter, and he goes, maybe Jennifer Dulos wrapped herself in the comforter. And the whole courtroom just cringes. It's like, Scott, dude. And then he goes, maybe she was cold. And the prosecutor goes, maybe Jennifer was cold in September in Florida. And he goes, well, I know she ended up cold. And I wish I could talk to Scott Nelson, because what I would say, Scott, this is why no one cares about your poop bag. Because of that. You honestly have little tiny parts of your personality that seem to be not awful. You got this little likable honesty thing once in a while, but right here, that is the part that no one cares about. No one cares about the injustices that happen to you when you say stuff like that. Like, me and my friend Danny have this ongoing joke with each other where if either of us makes a mistake, it has to be a very small, mundane, not a big deal mistake. Like, what's an example? So say we're hanging out or something, or we're like meeting up, and I text Danny, hear his phone or he doesn't get back. Something small like that. Like he doesn't see the text or something when I see him. I'll be like, oh, I text you. He goes, oh, I didn't see it. And we'll go. He would say this to me if I screwed up, but I'll go. He's like, oh, I didn't see the text. I go, Danny, this is why everybody hates you. Like we go in. But it's funny. But I felt this way with the Scott Nelson thing. It's like, Scott, this is why everyone hates you. Because I know she ended up cold. It's like, well, no one's going to feel bad about you for your little foggy memory and when the guard didn't bring you toilet paper. Just because of that sentence. Now it's impossible to care about you. So, all right. Then she asks him, did you take a beer from the house's fridge? And he's like, terrible beer. He remembers that the beer was not good, but when he doesn't remember why he duct taped her head. All right. So we're moving through. So they're moving through the, they start showing him, they've moved through him killing her in the Disney property field. So then he drives the car back. So they're asking him, so you went back to the ATM. Think about how sad this is. He kills this nanny. He gets $300 out of her bank account using her debit card, being filmed by the ATM. And they show pictures of him at the ATM, like the camera that films while you're getting cash. So it's him just like, and they're like, is this you? And he's like, I don't know. I don't think so. That just looks like some blurry guy. And he's just amusing himself and making a mockery of the whole thing. And they're like, is this your signature? Because you signed this picture in the interrogation you did saying that was you. And he's like, that doesn't even look like my that signature. That looks like a scribble. I don't know. That's not me. And then they put another picture up and he's like, I don't know. That doesn't look like me either. And they're like, well, that's your signature. And he's like, nah, it doesn't look like it. My mind's getting foggy. And then they show a picture of the car. And again, the prosecutor needs to have credit for this because she's up there talking to a guy that really just has nothing to lose. He wants the death penalty. He wants to be put to death. So maybe even his really unlikable answers, like, well, I know she ended up cold. Maybe those, I was thinking, are to help him get the death penalty. Just, I don't know. And, like I said, she's like, did she yell? And he's like, I don't know, I don't remember. And so think about how sad this is. He kills this lady. He gets $300 out of her account. And then he drives back into town from the Disney location. And he tries to get money again from the ATM. And then he goes to 7-Eleven and buys a pizza. Just a 7-Eleven pizza. You couldn't even, go to like a Pizza Hut at least. It's not even that much more expensive. So he goes to 7-Eleven and gets a pizza. And in the interrogation, he was proudly said that someone had to die for him to get that pizza. But the thing is he had $500. He could have went and gotten that pizza without killing Jennifer. But he bought zip ties. So the prosecution asked him about that. It's like, you said someone had to die for you to eat that 7-Eleven pizza. And he's like, yeah, someone did. It's kind of sad, but someone did. So I think he really thinks that. And then she's asking him, did you make, because so then he ditches the car and he starts taking, I think, a bus to a train or maybe just a train. But then I guess he was standing just right in front of a bunch of different cameras, just right in the train station, just, standing there in a way that someone that just killed someone that was trying to get away with it never would. So the prosecution asks him, were you trying to be on as many cameras as possible in order to get caught? And he says no, but But then he says that he wanted to get caught and he was just sitting there and he wanted to go back to jail. So I think my final theory on this Scott Nelson guy is he has had major problems, obviously. And he would not take responsibility for any of those problems. So, you know, say he loses his job because he just has issues and is hard to work with and has had head injuries and all this stuff. I don't think he's capable of saying, I screwed that one up. It's my fault. At no part in this was anything his fault. Just a victim. Play the victim card. Not my fault. Injustices. Right as soon as you might feel a tinge bad for him, he says something like, well, I know she ended up cold. And it's like, well, good. I'm glad you're where you are, Scott. And so then the defense wraps, and I think it was the next day. So then the next day he takes the stand again. And his lawyers are asking, he wants to put it out there on the record that the reason this whole thing happened was because of the injustices the guards did to him. They made him into an animal. It's not his fault. It's the normal, it's the normal events that happen. If you are turned into an animal, you go and you wrap a nice lady's head in duct tape and you kill her. That's what, he's saying, I didn't get toilet paper for 12 hours in jail, and so But really, it's just, he can't come to terms with his own failures, and so it has to be someone else's fault. It just has to be. And so he takes the stand again, and they're asking him, why, what did being incarcerated for 25 years? And he starts to answer, and he's going off on these weird tangents, and they say, unresponsive, objection, unresponsive. So then they ask him again, and he starts going off, and it's like, objection, unresponsive. And they're like, you need to answer the question. So they ask him one more time, and he just looks at the jury, and he goes, I am a homicidal maniac. It's like, okay, no further questions. And then it goes to the jury, and he wanted the death penalty. And a big part of it, I think, is because, like I said, way back in the Chris Watts death penalty versus life in prison, death row for an older convict like Nelson, death row is pretty nice because you get a cell alone. It's nice and quiet. You don't have the crazy just banging that on the normal cell block. You don't have a cellmate, someone that is either going to assault you or steal your stuff, or it could take, it takes forever to execute a lot of the time anyway, so you could just sit there for 10, 20 years, whatever. And so he really wants the death penalty, and the jury doesn't give it to him. So he wants the death penalty. All the jurors except one are ready to give it to him. One of them says no, and I guess you need all of them. And so he gets life in prison. He's back. He's probably going to get his surgery. And he'll probably die thinking that he is the victim and that Julio Dominguez is the reason that Jennifer died. But to be honest, I'm really glad to be done with Scott Nelson. Hope he floors himself right into his cell and never comes out. See if I have anything else for today. I'm going to try to, it's supposed to rain all day today, but I'm going to try to either today or tomorrow to go up and film around Jeffrey Epstein's Upper East Side townhouse, do a little Epstein update from up there. See if I can make that work, but yeah, either way, I'll see you next time. Hope you guys are having a great week. Why? Stive in why? Shum.